So Russia and China are taking a stand. What about India? New Delhi was proactive to begin with. Prime Minister Narendra Modi condemned the Hamas attack. He called it what it was, a brutal terrorist assault. He also expressed solidarity with Israel, and Prime Minister Netanyahu clearly appreciated it because days later he called Prime Minister Modi. He updated him on Israel's operation. But beyond that, what is India's role here? Well, one concern is evacuations. New Delhi has launched Operation Ajay. 2 batches of Indian nationals have been brought back to India. We've done so in the past as well. India has evacuated citizens from Ukraine, from Sudan, from Yemen and Lebanon. But those were logistical operations. What about the political ones? The ones that involve taking sides or trying to mediate in a conflict. That's where India appears to be reluctant. After the attack, New Delhi called it terrorism. Yet Hamas has not been redesignated in India. India has still not declared it as a terrorist group. Now, obviously, this raises questions. How can a non-terror group carry out a terror attack? That's problem number 1, the lack of clarity. Problem number 2 is the lack of initiative. There's a lot of diplomacy happening right now, but India is not in the room. New Delhi has close ties with Israel, Iran and the Arab world. No one else does. The US doesn't talk to Iran. China says Israel has gone too far. So who remains? India. But India has not leveraged its position. Our statements have been generic, like tackling all forms of terrorism or sticking to the long-standing demand for a Palestinian state. The problem is, this war is not about all forms of terrorism, it's about Hamas's terrorism. Similarly, this war is not about Palestinian statehood. New Delhi has always supported the 2-state solution. Diluting it was never in question. But why not dehyphenate it? Why not separate Hamas and Palestine? US President Joe Biden has said that Hamas is not Palestine. So has the European Union. Even the UAE has criticized Hamas. Abu Dhabi called last Saturday's attack a grave escalation. So why is New Delhi half-hearted? In the past, there were valid reasons. Let's go back to the 1940s and 50s. The newly independent India was a strong advocate of Palestine. Sure, you can say it was based on principle. But it was a practical choice too. Indian leaders were wary of West Asia's support to Pakistan. After all, Pakistan was a Muslim country. It was also 100% behind Palestine. So India did not want to alienate Arab nations. But that was 7 decades ago. Today, India's ties with the Arab world have evolved. They're not centered on Palestine. They're built around trade, economy and strategy. And the Saudi Crown Prince alluded to this. He was on a state visit to India last month. He told Prime Minister Modi, there are no disagreements between New Delhi and Riyadh. No disagreements. So India can afford to be more vocal and more involved. That's what world powers do. And on terrorism, India has an added responsibility. We have been victims of such attacks. We've lost hundreds of civilians and soldiers. So if India doesn't speak out, who will? That does not mean abandoning the Palestinian cause or giving Israel the license to flatten Gaza. It means drawing clear red lines on what is acceptable. And terrorism certainly isn't. My point is, India needs to behave its size. We are the 5th largest economy and a nuclear power. We have massive stakes in this fight. You may know about oil and the economic corridor. But there's something else too. Around 900 Indian soldiers are deployed at the Israel-Lebanon border. They're United Nations peacekeepers, 900. They guard 110 kilometers of the border between Israel and Lebanon. But this time, we also need to build peace, not just keep it. You can't just evacuate citizens and sit on the sidelines. You need to take a stand.